I'm Chris Avina with American Outdoor News. Today we have Chris Dorsey of Dorsey TV and Dorsey Pictures. Chris, thanks for coming on.
Great to be on. Thanks for having me.
Man, we have so many things to talk about. You produce shows, you do shows, you hunt, you travel. You're a man of all trades.
Well, I'm just trying to avoid honest work as much as anything else. So.
Yeah, you and me both.
Shh, don't tell anyone.
Now, you have shows Building Alaska, Tiny House, Big Living, Main Cabin Masters. I like that show, by the way. I watch it all the time.
Yeah, it's done really well. It's a very popular show.
So how did you get into producing shows? Did you start filming your own hunts and producing your own shows, and then you just got into...
Actually, I'm kind of a recovering magazine editor as much as anything. Once upon a time, I used to edit Sports Afield magazine out of Los Angeles for Bob Peterson. It was, he had all those magazines on the West Coast, Guns and Ammo, Hunting Magazine, Motor Trend, Teen, Skin Diver, a whole series of lifestyle magazines. But he ended up buying Sports Afield from Hearst Magazines out of New York. And I had worked for him previously, much younger in my life. And he said, hey, who would come to LA and edit this magazine? I love Sports Afield magazine. I had actually written for it when Tom Paul was the longtime editor there. Terry McDonald was the editor just previous to me. Terry went on to be the editor at Sports Illustrated. I moved out to LA, back out to LA, and ran Sports Afield magazine. But then really, at that point, kind of saw that was in the early, I guess 90s recession period where advertising was really fluid and shifting out of print significantly into television. Not so much digital, not so much streaming, but television at the time. So this notion of branded entertainment was something that we had created a television show around Sports Afield magazine. And I just saw kind of all the advertisers fleeing the magazine, but they loved the television show. And I said, I think there's I'm not the sharpest guy in the room, but I think there's a business here. And I knew most of the C-suite guys in the outdoor industry, all the gun companies, ammo companies, and kind of, started knocking on doors about why don't we create a TV show about your brand, your company, your products, give it personality and sort of stretch the marketing envelope a little bit for you. And that led to, I think we're now up to 56 different series that we've produced in the outdoor space over about 20, 25 years. And we've done an equal number in mainstream cable television, like you were mentioning, Main Cabin Masters, which was on DIY, is moving to Magnolia. Magnolia is the joint venture between Chip and Joanna Gaines of Fixer Upper fame and Discovery Channel. And yeah, we're the kings of tiny. I think we've done 6 or 7 different tiny house shows over the years. Tiny House, Big Living, which is almost like wallpaper on HGTV, and lots of other shows for Discovery and History, Nat Geo. We've got a new IMAX film that'll be out actually next month, and it's opening, I think, in 3 cities in Texas: Galveston, Houston, and I think Corpus Christi. And it's a natural history film about the prairie wetlands of Canada, this amazing ecosystem that really has produced like 70% of the water birds in North America come out of that ecosystem, yet nobody knows anything about it. And we got Ducks Unlimited and Max McGraw, Wildlife Foundation, Audubon to come in. Michael Keaton, Birdman himself, is the narrator, who's a friend of ours. And so, yeah, we're kind of excited about that. It's a stunning film. It'll open in Denver in January as well. And I think coming to Pittsburgh, Edmonton. So it's the way the IMAX films work is different than Hollywood releases, where, a movie might open nationwide on Friday night. IMAX films move individually around to different markets, and they stay in those markets for up to a year. Yeah. So it's quite an engagement.
Well, when it comes to New York, let me know. We have IMAX theaters here as well. And
yeah, it will. In fact, they're in negotiations right now, our distributor, with a couple of different theaters in New York.
Right. I look forward to seeing. So if somebody wanted to start a show, how do they go about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a crowded crowded marketplace, as you know. I mean, it's there's a lot of people that want to do it. I think it's probably pretty smart to build a social media following now. Yeah. And quite frankly, a lot of people are doing the social media influencer thing and are getting lots of follows. And, certainly we're involved in that space as well. I don't exactly know where the transactional success of some of these platforms are at this point. We've done a fair amount of research on it, and they're very different demos. We look at social media as a support structure for television. And you say, well, why is that when you might have millions of followers? Well, the demo isn't particularly great in a lot of the social platforms. They tend to be much younger. They don't have much money. Their buying influence is pretty small. Whereas television is an older demo. It's 50, 55 plus. Well, 75% of the wealth in the United States is controlled by people over 55. So if you're selling a premium product, if you're selling a premium service, experience, et cetera, that television demo is still a very good demo. Several of the magazines have really great demos as well. But we got to look at the whole landscape and go, well, why not be in these social platforms as well, and use that to graduate consumers into other platforms, So, I mean, the podcast world is taking off, and, obviously, that very well, and becomes a great platform as well.
Do you see the advertising dollars flowing out of TV?
Actually, it's kind of the inverse right now. And for a while, it was digital. Everything was digital and social platforms, and there's still growth there. Don't get me wrong, but boy, did they jump back just a few years ago back into TV because they couldn't track, the sales investment, the investment of the advertising in some of those social platforms. And we have a very big sister company, one of the biggest digital companies, production companies in the world, called Studio 71. I think they have 8 billion views of their content every month worldwide. And but it's been difficult to sort of crack the financial code in that realm. Brands are coming in, but they're struggling to figure out exactly how the ROI works. Whereas some of these, these more traditional mediums have just sort of proven themselves over time, and that's why you're still seeing, pretty good rates being charged on the linear TV front.
You see more money coming into the streaming video as well, or?
Well, yeah, I think part of it is there's more money being spent on content, right? I mean, you've got, the notion that you're going to sort of divest from television. I mean, all that's happening is it's all going to streaming, right? And you're not paying less for content. You're paying more for content. You're paying more for content than you have ever paid for content. And that's, I mean, who doesn't have 14 different streaming platforms now? And I had a friend of mine who runs a very, very big multinational media company. He just said, look, we're going to lose $1 billion a year over the next 8 years launching our streaming platform. But we feel like we have to do it. We have to go head to head with Disney. We have to go head to head with, Warner Media and these other, Viacom players. And so, and Netflix and all the rest of them. So it's an interesting shift, but from a consumer standpoint, I don't really know exactly what we're gaining. We're getting more opportunities out there. There's certainly more money being spent on content, but in terms of the notion that you're going to get content for less money, cheaper, that isn't the case. It just isn't the case. So, we're paying more for content. We're getting more opportunities for content. When I go to Netflix or I go to Amazon, Hulu, all these, I mean, to me, it's pretty damn hard to tell the difference. I mean, they tend to carry many of the same programs. Some of the really big guys like Disney, they have huge franchises that are global. They've got a leg up, obviously. Universal has a big leg up too, just as a giant company. But yeah, it's an interesting time for sure. And the outdoor space is caught up in that too. We're all looking at OTT platforms and streaming, in addition to linear, in addition to web-based kind of content. And we're we're pushing content out to places that didn't exist 5 years ago. So it's kind of going everywhere, which is great.
And they're starting to package it also. You see Outdoor Channel with Carbon TV, and giving a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and I think part of the concern is just what's going to happen down the road, right? If a gatekeeper wants to deplatform hunting content or personal defense and gun content, what recourse do we have? We don't have a lot.
Really don't have anything.
Yeah, so it's part of it is just a defensive posture to make sure your content is in many, many different places, so that if one platform does say, we're out of the gun space, we're out of the hunting space, you've got someplace else to go. Now, would I love to see, a center right giant platform emerge? Yeah, of course, I'd love to see that. But in the meantime, we're still on the, communist platforms like Facebook and Instagram and these guys that hate us.
YouTube,
and that's part of what I hate about even playing in that space. It's like I feel like we're feeding the beast that wants to destroy us, and I know everybody feels that way.
It's a necessary evil, though.
It is kind of a necessary evil, and until there's another platform that sort of believes in who we are and our lifestyle, here we are.
Yeah. Now you've been on some amazing hunts, and you did the Africa's Dangerous Game Slam, the North American Super Slam, the Turkey Slam. Where do you find the time for all this?
Well, the good news is I started at a very young age, so it was kind of an occupational hazard working in the outdoor magazine business, then outdoor television business. And we've done so many series over the years: Dangerous Game, Deadliest Hunts, all sorts of whitetail and elk and big game shows. And I didn't set out to do any slams. I mean, I don't, it wasn't like, here's my checklist, I want to go do it. I mean, it was just one of those sort of, the more you keep doing this organically, you just kind of get around the world. And
yeah,
I think I've been close to 50 times now in South America, 35 times, and all over Canada, many, many times, Europe. And so it's just sort of it's what I love about big adventure hunting is really the excuse to go travel and see different places. And even if you don't share a language with guides, man, you share a spirit that hunters are bound by, no matter where you live. Yeah.
I've always loved to travel, and I've been around the world, and more for leisure than for hunting. But now I look at a place, I'm like, okay, what can I hunt while I'm there?
Yeah, I think the Marine Corps has a slogan, something like that too, but it's a little bit different. Strange, exotic places. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. But it's, I've always loved to travel, and I think when you travel as a hunter, you get to see countries and landscapes that, the average person going from one city to the next as they move around will never understand that, will never appreciate that. And it's pretty cool to be in Argentina and have a sunrise just lift the veil off a marsh, where you can hear what sounds like pintails, what sounds like widgeon, what sounds like teal. The difference is, it's Bahama teal, and it's different, Chiloe widgeon, it's rosy-billed pochard instead of scaup and things like that. But they sound similar, but you're in a completely exotic landscape, and that's pretty cool too.
It is, and you never know what you're going to find. Yeah. Every day, every morning is a new adventure.
Yeah, amen.
So you went from being an editor to being a producer.
Yeah, once we kind of made that transition, and I could see, there's a real business case to be made here for a branded entertainment television production company in the outdoor space. And it was just sort of perfect timing, because, the magazine world was getting really tough. The brands still were selling. They still wanted to market. Yep. And then you had these cable channels emerge, like ESPN, TNN, if you remember TNN back in the day.
I remember.
TNN, became Spike, and now Spike is of course, Paramount, which is where Yellowstone is on and some of those other big shows. But yeah, it was just sort of the perfect, nexus of the right timing. The brands were ready for it. I knew the brands, and we tried hard to produce, pretty high quality programming on the budgets that we had. And I think we early on kind of set ourselves apart from a lot of the programming that was out there. At least I hope we did. And we've always tried to maintain that semblance of quality of production, because at the end of the day, this whole lifestyle is really who we are. It's not what we do.
Yeah, it's part of us. Yeah. As a creator, you finish up a project and you're like, wow, that was a really good project. What was your favorite project that you've been involved with?
Ooh, that's a great question. This IMAX film has been really quite an amazing journey. It's a 2-year film, millions of dollars to produce this film, but it's a film with a mission. The whole idea stemmed from a meeting that Charlie Potter at the Max McGraw Wildlife Foundation up in Chicago put on. He brought in all the top waterfowl scientists, biologists, managers from Canada, throughout the United States, private sector, public, and really to kind of look at the North American Waterfowl Management Plan, to look at the North American Wetlands Conservation Act, and where are they? What is it doing for waterfowl in North America? And how do we communicate that? How do we celebrate that? This amazing international conservation effort, tens of millions of dollars over time, saving millions of acres of habitat. And I was brought in obviously as a media guy, as a communications guy. And once upon a time, I used to run marketing communications for Ducks Unlimited. And I just said, well, look, why don't we look at a big strategy that's long-term, that really does celebrate this amazing ecosystem. You've heard of the Everglades, you've heard of the Amazon, you've probably heard of the Serengeti, but who the hell has heard of the prairie wetlands in Canada, in North and South Dakota, the prairie pothole region, AKA the duck factory if you're a waterfowler. And very few people have. So it's like, how do we brand that? How do we brand this ecosystem so that people really care about it and they really want to protect it? Because they know looking skyward, all these birds, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of birds coming over the skies every fall and spring are coming out of that same spot. If that spot doesn't exist, we don't have this magic, right? Just connect those. And so the IMAX film became the focal point of that strategy. But every time that film goes to a different market, there's newspaper, television, radio interviews done around the film coming to town. It's like the circus coming to town. Sure. Only in this case, it's about conservation and these amazing ecosystems, and gives us the chance then to really tell that story market by market in a really meaningful, long-term way. And oh, by the way, there's an entire curriculum, school curriculum built around the film, built around the prairie wetlands, the whole magic of the place. And so that goes into school systems for a decade. And then it goes into streaming platforms and television globally, not just domestically, but abroad. So anyway, that was the idea. And so it's not so much making a movie, it's creating a movement. That's really the idea.
Sure. And it's important subject matter that everybody cares about on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, that's right. This is not political. This is apolitical all the way. We all agree that we want more birds, we want clean air, we want healthy water systems, and this is all part of that. We got to tell our story.
Sure. Everybody wants a clean duck in their oven.
Amen. Or two.
So are you more a bird hunter or a big game hunter?
I get that question a lot. I think partly because I started early in my career, mostly as a wing shooter, only for lack of opportunity in big game hunting, right? And then as I got into, in my mid to late 20s, I started working for Hunting Magazine out in Los Angeles, and Craig Boddington, great friend, started traveling around the world hunting big game, and so that just became much more of my focus for the next 25 years. So, but I love it all. I mean, as much as anything, to me, it's kind of where you are and who you're doing it with. Sure. That's the real draw, and those are the memories, and I've got twin boys that are 16 now and are fanatical little velociraptors that love to hunt and fish. And so, as much as anything, I just like taking them out. If I don't pull the trigger, no problem. Just being with them in the field is magic enough.
Passing on our heritage.
Yeah. And it's a shared commonality that we'll have forever, and being able to relate to your kids through a shared lifestyle, I think, is just a pretty magical thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On that note, we're going to take a minute to just recognize some of our sponsors. Underwood Ammo, always the standard of excellence. Pyro Putty and Phone Scope, innovative, always coming out with great products. And of course, Hunt of a Lifetime. We're going to see a quick message from them, and we're going to be right back.
We love our children. We protect them. We guide them. We prepare them for life in the world. With all that we do, from deep in our hearts, we cannot control all things. Life-threatening illnesses and disabilities affect far too many of our children each year. While we cannot change the circumstance, we can make dreams come true. Dreams to provide hope, to provide spiritual healing and strength, to provide moments of happiness and relief in the hardest of times. We can give a glimmer of light and hope in a time of darkness and despair. Join huntofalifetime.org to help make dreams come true, to provide hope for children with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Hunt of a Lifetime is a nonprofit organization fulfilling dreams for hunting and fishing trips to youth 21 and under with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Visit huntofalifetime.org to learn how you can make a difference.
Okay, and we're back. And we're talking about family and outdoors. What a better way to bond with your kids.
Yeah, no, we took a trip down to the Amazon this past year. My boys love to fish, and one's a fanatical fly fisherman. The other one's a spin guy, but it wasn't the peacock bass zone. We caught a few peacocks, but it was a different river that was full of catfish and arapaima and like dozens and dozens of very exotic leviathans. I mean,
Wow.
Just very odd looking fish. And so we were catching stuff that, we couldn't even identify what was coming out of the water in some cases. Big toothy critters, big fight. And we just had a ball. I mean, it was one of those, we completely unplugged from the civilized world. There's no Wi-Fi, no cell connection. And I can't remember the last time we did that. And that alone was worth the trip, but to do it in such a remote, wild place in the Amazon, and for the 15-year-olds at the time to see that environment, to be immersed in that environment, was a pretty special deal.
How many kids get to see that? Not very many. Probably very few. But
yeah,
I'm
for sure.
a big believer in taking a kid traveling and exposing them to the different cultures. That's the biggest learning experience out there.
100%. I mean, I couldn't agree more. Growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, but my parents still managed to get us out and travel some. And you're right. I mean, you talk about connecting with cultures and understanding the world better because of that. Yeah, that's the greatest education I think you can get.
100%. 100%. So now, what aside from the iMac movie coming out, what shows do you have coming out?
We've obviously Sporting Classics Television is coming back on. It's on right now. It'll come back next season in July on Outdoor Channel, which is a lot of fun. We've got Spanish ibex. We've got hunts in Africa and in South America. Some great elk hunts. We just did a fantastic elk hunt down in southern Colorado. I took one of my sons down there, and he shot just a magnificent bull. It was at almost 12,000 feet. I've never shot an elk that high. In fact, I've never shot a sheep that high. And it was a little bit warm, so there wasn't much snow up top. And these old bulls just stayed right on top. So, you're sucking wind at 12,000 feet. But we made about a 2-mile hike in to get to a little bachelor herd of about 6-7 bulls, and snuck in 150 yards away, just above them. and Luke made a fantastic shot on a 340 class bull. I mean, just a magnificent old monarch of the mountain.
Beauty.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, packing them out of there obviously was some work, but it was such a memorable hunt, such a beautiful ranch, great guys, a lot of fun. But it was that was his first bull, and to literally see that same little bachelor herd of bulls 2 days earlier from about 3 miles away, and then finally in a couple days later get up on them and do this long stalk across the mountains, probably a 2-mile stalk to get in there and get on them. And it was just really rewarding. You know, it's that old story of, you know, the value of a trophy is calculated directly proportionate to the amount of energy expended in its acquisition. I think it's a Ivan Turgenev quote, but you know, there's no animal that he takes that will mean more to him than that elk.
That's exciting in itself, just to be there and share in the experience with somebody. That's especially when it's their first time. It's
I mean, you get to see it again, you know, for the first time through somebody else's eyes. It feels like, you know, it feels very much like your first hunt as well. And when it's your kid, you know, that's extra special for sure. We'll have that for the rest of our lives.
Absolutely. Now, you've hunted just about every species under the sun. What's your favorite animal to hunt?
Ooh, you know,
tough question.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's so many great animals. I mean, you look at a white-tailed deer and it's got kind of everything you'd want in a game animal. Love hunting whitetails, love hunting elk. You know, some of the most rewarding hunts I've ever done were clearly mountain hunts. I went 3 different times to try and get a mountain goat. And finally, and I was always hunting late season because a mountain goat to me, you know, the cape is so much of the spectacular aspect of the animal, you know, and in late season, they grow that super heavy cape. And I really wanted to hunt one that was fully, the pelage was just fully mature and thick. And so that means you're hunting in snow, right? I mean, you're walking on snow up the mountain to get at the goat, and finally did in British Columbia. Shot just a monster of a goat, and after 3 different hunts of 2 other ones not getting a goat, it was such a satisfying. I didn't know if I had one more climb in me, frankly, in that hunt, because it was just 3 trips up the mountain in the snow, you know, knee deep snow and sliding, and but to finally get that sucker was just so rewarding. But you know, the bongo. You know, I took a bongo in Cameroon. I went 1 year. We were just too early. The rains hadn't fallen. You couldn't really track the bongo. I got a giant eland on that trip. Went back home a little dejected. I really wanted the bongo. I'd been, you know, hoping to get a bongo for about 10 years. So I went back the following year. We finally got the bongo, and that was another one that, you know, you're just chopping your way through the Cameroonian rainforest, and when you see this orange antelope in the middle of the emerald forest, I mean, it just takes your breath away. It's one of those where you just literally, you just pause. You're not in hunt mode. You're just kind of in awe mode at that moment, you know. And I think, you know, that's the way it was with leopards for me. The first time I saw a cat in natural light on a limb, I mean, it just, it's awesome. It just is an awesome sight. And I think if you ever lose that, I don't know why you would hunt, you know.
Well, at the end of the day, life is a series of experiences. And when it's your time, that's the only thing you're going to take with you, the experience.
That's right.
Can't take the money, can't take assets or anything you acquire except your memories.
Yeah, there's no U-Haul on a hearse, as they say.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
But well, we have show season coming up. I know everybody has their work cut out for them. What do you look to get out of the upcoming shows?
Yeah, well, I'm excited that they look like they're going to happen. I mean, number one, that's a big deal these days, obviously, and And Dallas Safari Club, I've always enjoyed getting down there. That's the first one for us. And
Yep.
and it's kind of like a homecoming. You get to see all these people from around the world that you typically only see once a year, if you're lucky, and it's usually at the convention. So, for me, it's like old home week. You can't get down the hall without, seeing 25 people you've known, you've hunted with, or whatever, and for a long time. And then we're going to go to SCI in Vegas, and probably we'll get over to the SHOT Show for a day or two as well. We've got some business over there and friends over there, but it's it can be a bit of a grind, but it's fun as well. I mean, I just enjoy getting out, and after everybody being cooped up for so long, isn't it nice we can finally get together, mask or no mask, I guess.
Yeah, I always look forward to this time of year. You get to see friends, like you said, they don't normally see. You only see them at the shows that you go to, or if you're lucky enough to get out on a hunt with them here and there. And, it's always the best time of year. It's like Christmas.
Yeah, well, and we're social animals at the end of the day. I mean, we need connectivity, and we can't be stuck in our homes away from people and doing everything by Zoom every day. We need some connection as human beings, I think, and that'll go a long way towards maybe healing some of the wounds in this country right now.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I know we spoke about earlier before we started taping the gun rights and the NRA and all that. What's going on with the NRA these days?
Yeah, I write for Forbes, and I've covered sort of what's going on with the NRA fairly significantly. There's certainly others in the category that have covered it much more than I have. Look, there's not a lot of good news to report. I'm a life member of the NRA. I just didn't realize it might be for the life of the organization as opposed to my life when I signed up.
Yeah.
And obviously they're going to go to trial in New York. Letitia James, who's the Attorney General in New York, is hell bent on taking the NRA down. And it seems after the NRA tried to file bankruptcy, lots of information came out in that process. It seems she's got a lot of ammo.
Yeah.
And so we'll see. I think the trial is scheduled March, April window. Everything I'm hearing is the NRA will likely get a continuation on that, probably push the trial back to the fall. Speculation, maybe there could be a settlement. I just don't know how. I think at this point, she's got so much information on the NRA and sort of the corruption issues and malfeasance, and it's pretty awful, and it's likely to get worse, frankly, before it gets better.
Well, I don't see a lot of people renewing their membership to the NRA, and the main feedback I get is they're not rejoining because of Wayne LaPierre.
Yeah, and the logical question is, where is the board, right? I mean, what has the board done here? What responsibilities do they have? Obviously, many have resigned in protest of what's going on, and so it's just a pretty untenable situation at this point. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I've talked to many gun and ammo company leaders and executives. I've talked to their counsel. I've talked to industry counsel out there, and there is not a sense that this is going to end well for the NRA. Yeah. And it's an incredibly sad thing. We need a strong NRA. They've done a lot of great things over the years, obviously, but very difficult for them to even engage right now. I mean, they can't really be very active in the marketplace politically. I don't know really that they're doing much right now, and we're coming up on the midterms that are going to be all important, and that's the time that they're going to be fighting for their own survival, much less defending the Second Amendment. And so yeah, it's a really, really unfortunate situation, but it seems a lot of it's self-inflicted. So I don't know what the outcome is going to be. Yeah, likely not to be good.
A few years ago, God, it's probably close to 5 years ago, when Oliver North was there. he was making a play to clean it up, and that kind of backfired on him, and he got bounced.
Well, and I think, part of what I wrote about as well is in Forbes is what comes after the NRA, what comes after Wayne LaPierre in this board if the NRA survives. And I mean, it's difficult for me to imagine a scenario where the NRA doesn't survive in some form. At the end of the day, you still got millions of members who did nothing wrong. They're really the victims out of this deal. And it's not their fault that their leadership let them down. And so I think it would be a mistake to try and end the organization, which the Attorney General has blatantly said she would like to do. She's been a NRA antagonist for a long time. This is not new for her. But now she's armed with a great deal of facts, and the NRA is spending an extraordinary amount of money right now on legal fees. I mean, that's, they're spending more on legal fees than they are in any lobby effort, educational effort, and that's an untenable situation. This is not going to endure long term. What the outcome is, I think we're going to know probably later in the fall.
So in the event we see the NRA disband, who fills that void?
Well, that's the big question, right? Is there another organization? Of course, there's other organizations, but heretofore, nobody has captured the brand strength, the political clout, the notoriety, just the brand awareness. Nobody has anything close to that outside of the NRA right now. But clearly, this would be a giant void in the marketplace that we can't afford not to have. We as a category must have a very strong Second Amendment organization that is the cavalry that can be called when needed. We happen to have a very sympathetic court right now, but that's not a long-term deal. And then we've got states issues, and the fight, even in the hunting situation, the fights go to the states very often, and they have tremendous impact on people. So we've got to be able to fight on at the state level as well as the federal level. And I don't know, to answer your question, I don't know who fills that void.
Well, there's a number of organizations, but like you said, they don't have the political clout or the staying power to step up.
Yeah, at least they haven't demonstrated it yet. Maybe they will. We'll see. But there is clearly a generational, beyond a generational void now, and it's got to be filled. It has to be filled.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Well, with that in mind, we'll see what comes of the courts or the delays, and go from there. But I definitely appreciate you taking the time to come on and speak to us on a number of topics. It's been enlightening, really.
Well, thanks for asking great questions, for having me on. Certainly appreciate that.
All right. Look forward to seeing you at the shows, and we'll speak to you soon.
All right. Likewise. Be well.
All right.